Hey everyone, it's me, Rami Marks, your tangled yogi out here in Northern California. Welcome to Into the Great Wide Open. This is a Zentangle inspired class that I'm going to be teaching for the Napa Public Library tomorrow, and I wanted to share it with you as well. So let's talk about the things that we're going to need for class. I'm going to be working with the Micron PN Pen, a graphite pencil, and a blending stump. If you don't have a blending stump, you can always use a Q-tip from the bathroom. I have a white gel pen from Sakura that I'll be using, but you can use your favorite gel pen. You know me, I'm a Prismacolor girl, so grab your Prismacolor pencils and we're going to have a great time with these. And hey, if you don't have Prismacolor pencils, don't worry about it. Go ahead and grab your color pencils and play along with us the best you can. I'm going to be working with the Genesis tile from the Tangled Yogi shop. This tile is 4.5 by 4.5 inches on super smooth paper that's great for receiving color pencil. If you don't have the Genesis tile, go ahead and grab your favorite sketchbook and make a square that's 4.5 by 4.5 inches and play along with us. With that said, let's get started with Into the Great Wide Open. So let's do a little grounding exercise before we get started with our creating today. Take a comfortable seated position, letting your feet touch down onto the floor. Allow your spine to grow comfortably tall here, letting your shoulders melt down away from your ears. You can let your hands rest in your lap, and if you're comfortable with it, allow your eyes to close for a moment. Let your attention come to your breath as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Just noticing how the breath is today. Inhaling and exhaling. And let's go ahead and play with the breath just a little bit today. I want you to breathe in just a little bit, and then breathe in just a little bit more, filling the whole upper body with breath. And as you exhale, let the exhale come out as a sigh. Breathing in, taking in a nice sip of breath. Breathing in a little bit more, filling the upper body with breath. And as you exhale, take a sigh. One more time, breathing in a little bit more as you fill the entire upper body with breath, and then exhaling it out. And then letting your breath come back to its natural pace, and just staying with that breath for a little while, and noticing if the breath is a little bit fuller and a little bit easier. And as we breathe here for the next few moments, I'm going to share a quote with you, and this is by Anita Kruzan, and she says, "You don't have to move mountains. Simply fall in love with life. Be a tornado of happiness, gratitude, and acceptance. You will change the world just by being a warm, kind-hearted human being." And I hope today's class helps to fill you up and to help you to find gratitude, happiness, and acceptance so that you can be that warm, kind-hearted human being. So let's get started and create. Let's begin the regular old-fashioned Zentangle way here. We're going to start with our dots. I'm going to put my dots in my corners here, and this is going to help us to develop a nice frame around our piece. So I'm just going to connect the dots here, and you can see that I've got a graphite pencil. This is just a number 2 pencil that I have in my hand here. And all I'm doing is just very lightly creating a frame for the piece. Now once I have my frame the way that I like it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a diagonal line that's going to go across our piece here and give it a nice string. So I'm going to start from the left hand corner and go down to the lower right hand corner. So all I'm doing is just a nice soft diagonal line in which we'll use our string. Okay, so go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to talk about our string just a little bit more. So I want to talk about our string before we're actually going to create it here. And many of you know that I love to go onto Pinterest, or I love to go on Instagram and get inspired by other tanglers. And so our string today is inspired by a gal, I believe she's out of Japan, and it's Yuko-63. She did a beautiful piece a little while back with this particular shape in it, and I liked it so much I wanted to bring it to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down from the corner here about an inch and make a little dot, and we're going to do the same thing right over here. I'm going to come down over into this corner and go out about an inch and then go up about an inch and make a dot. So you should have these dots on your piece, and then your diagonal line should be right in between those pieces there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to very softly make a slightly curved line. So you're going to see me come in with my graphite pencil, and all I'm doing is doing a slightly curved line that looks a little bit like this. And let me bring it up close so that you can see it. It's just barely curved. I'm going to turn this thing over and do it again. So for those of you who are right-handed, you would probably prefer to do this with your right hand, or do it on the right hand side and then turn it again and do it on the right hand side. But because I'm left-handed, that's why I'm doing it that way. So I'm just letting you know what I'm up to. So coming from this point to the point down here with a soft curve. And you'll notice that I'm leaving some space in the middle. Okay, so there's my soft curve. I didn't quite hit it, so I'm going to bring it down again and really get it to hit that point. So you can see that in the center I have a narrow space, and then in here I've got these nice curved corners. It's a really beautiful tangle, or shape for that matter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually now come in and I'm going to do a line that's going to go across, that's going to be a guideline for where the center of this piece actually is. And you can see that I'm going very, very lightly with this. Let me bring it up so that you can really see it. So that's what I'm up to in here. This is going to let me know where the center of the piece is. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then we'll talk more about the shape in the center. So you can see that I've got this nice intersection in here with this line and this line. I'm going to go into the center and I'm going to make a nice small circle that's going to have that centerpiece inside of it. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that so that you can really see it. Once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do an aura. Now this is what was so pretty in Yuko's piece. I just loved it. So she did a nice arc that went up and over, and you can see that I'm leaving some nice space in here. And then she did an arc down here. So it looks like that circle is continuous, but it's underneath the shape, which I really, really liked. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do an aura on the top, and I'm going to do an aura on the bottom, just like so. So that's going to help us to know where our centerpiece is, which I think is really, really beautiful. Now on the outside, I'm just going to zoom out here just a little bit. On the outside of our curve, all I'm going to do is do a narrow aura to give us some definition. And you guys have heard me talk about how when I was at my teacher training, they had the saying, when in doubt, aura out. And part of that for me is, if you ever want to make something feel more defined, aura it. It will always give you this beautiful definition and really make your tangle stand out. So you can see that I've done a nice narrow aura on each side of that shape. Okay? So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to build one more part of the string. So let's go ahead and build one more part of the shape in here. So you can see up here at the top I've got these nice points that are on the inside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little dot right where these nice auras are. And I'm going to let them sit on the outside. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to make a gentle V that has kind of a curved shape. And then I'll do the same thing over here, making that nice gentle shape, okay? And then I'm going to do an aura right there, and then I'll come in and I'll do another aura. These are pretty tight little auras over here. You can still see that I'm working with my pencil because, I want to get it the way I want to get it. And then once I've got my string, I can go ahead and tangle, okay? So I'm going to turn this over. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to come up to these points right here. I'm going to make a little dot right in here, and I'm going to make a gentle curved line. And you can see that there's kind of a method to the madness here. And I'm going to do another gentle curved line right there. I'll come in and do a nice tight aura, which means it's just really close, that's all. And now we've got this really pretty shape in the centerpiece, which we can do so much with. What she actually did was she used a tangle called Shattuck that was quite lovely in hers, but we're going to use a different tangle today. Okay, so go ahead and finish up yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to ink this in and bring some tangles into it. So you can see I've got my lines all in, ready to go. And this is our beautiful string for today. What I love about this is that it's created all these beautiful spaces in which for us to work in. So that's really why I love working with creative strings like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start the way that I did before. I've got my pen in my hand here. This is the Pigma pen, but it's the same as the Micron PN pen. I just happen to have this one here and really like working with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by building this the way that we started, and you can see that I'm going nice and gentle with it, really taking my time with my lines here. And then I'll go ahead and do my aura. I'm going to turn this around and do it again. Now remember, if you're right-handed, you'll do this on the other side. And then I'm going to come from the top here and drop down. So all I'm going to do is just come in and drop down. I'll come over to the other side and drop down, creating those really nice auras in here, giving this lots of definition. Remember to go slow with your lines. Our lines give us away if we're rushing. And this is Zentangle, it's not Speed Racer. And then I'll come over to the other side, just like so. And then I'll go ahead and I'll ink in the center. And I'm going to take my time with that circle here. And then I'll go ahead and add in my aura. I'm going to do those arcs. And I'll get this one down here, just like so. Really building something beautiful here. I think you're going to enjoy this. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to add in our first tangles. So we're going to start by creating some weighted lines that will eventually end up looking like the tangle flux. So for those of you who are not familiar with flux, flux is just a teardrop shape. Now in our particular piece, whoops, sorry, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a very elongated version of flux, but I'm going to do it in an interesting kind of way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by coming down here at the bottom, and let's go ahead and zoom in on this here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw two lines that are going to go through the piece here. So it'll look a little something like this. I'm going to go 1 and come back to the point and 2. Just like so. Now once I have that, I'm going to round off this corner and round off that corner, and then I'll do the same thing. So you can see it's just kind of 3 little arches that I've created up top, and then I'm going to go ahead and pool in my ink. And that's just a really soft way of creating those flux in there. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm just going to come down from this point and drop into this corner. Same thing here. Dropping in, and then all I'm going to do is round off those edges, pool my ink, and you get those neat elongated flux-like shapes in there. I'm going to turn my tile, and I'm going to do it again. So all I'm doing is I'm looking for the place where I want my flux to start, and I'm trying to keep it as even as I can. And then there's my corners there, right? You can see that. So all I'm going to do is just round off, and then I'll go ahead and I'll pool that ink. Same thing over here, nice and soft. And then once again, rounding off those corners by putting weight on the end of the line, so that when I turn it, it has that really nice feel. It's got this elongation to it, which is really cool. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start in with our next tangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and talk about our next tangle, and this is a really fun tangle. This is called Tint, but I believe her name is pronounced Henrique, and her last name is Bratz, and she did this beautiful tangle called Tint, and I just love this tangle. It's such a cool tangle, and so we're going to use it as a mandala today. Now I have to give credit to Catherine Burmeister, who I love. She's one of my favorite tanglers, and she did a really nice rendition of this tangle that we're kind of emulating today. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by having a nice little circle. So we're going to start with a circle here, and if you want to draw this with me, you absolutely can. I'm going to zoom in on this, and then what she does is she uses the tangle flux, and she starts from the bottom of the circle, she comes up and she goes just a little bit past the midpoint, and then she drops back down in again. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come into where flux is, just dropping underneath the lip of flux and then dropping down the side of our circle here. I'm also going to come down right here at the tip of where flux is, and then I'm going to make it look like it joins in at the bottom. So it looks like this flux petal is on top of this flux petal. Now she did lots of different variations on this, where she did some auras behind her circle. She did this where she kind of made it look like Showgirl, one of those really fun tangles that I absolutely love. She put some muka in one of them. She put some dots around them, all sorts of fun stuff. One of my favorite tangles is the tangle Cruffle, and Cruffle is where you do a little S and you end up with these two flux-like shapes. And I love this tangle because you do these beautiful auras on the inside like so. Now I like a single cruffle, but you can do a double cruffle. It sounds like, an Olympic sport over here. And by the way, for those of you who have never seen Cruffle, that's Cruffle. Now what I wanted to do was I wanted to do a single in here where we just come in and we add in those, and I just love the way that that looks. And then what I'm going to do for a little extra drama is I'm going to pool my ink behind that circle so that when we come in and do our shading, that orb is going to look so cool and so fantastic. I'm really enthusiastic about this particular tangle. So here we go with this really fun one called Tint. So to create our composition today, we're going to use tint as a mandala. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here at the bottom. And what I've done is I've come up about 3/4 of an inch on each side, and I'm making a little dot on each side. Now I'm going to turn the piece just a little bit, and I'm just going to do an arch that's going to connect those two dots, and you can see that I'm working with my graphite pencil for this. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and do another one. So there's a double aura right there. Okay, now the way that I'm going to build this particular tangle is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start to build a petal-like shape. And you can see it gets a little narrow at the bottom, but it's a little wider on the top. Now I'm going to come right next to it here, and I'm going to go up, touch the edge, and then I'm going to create another petal-like shape right next to it. I'm going to come over here, come up, touch the edge, and I'm going to come right next to it. Now I have spaces on either side here. You may not, but just so that if you do, I'm going to come in and I'm going to let it touch, and then I'm going to let it fall off the page. I'm going to come over here, let it touch, and let it fall off the page. And you'll notice that I've gotten these kind of meta tangles in here, or little baby triangles in there. And I love the way that looks when we pool it in with lots of ink. Now I'll come in again and I'll go from the top here. I'm just going to arc and come over, and then I'm going to arc and drop off the side of the page, arc and come over, and then I'll arc, and this one may or may not drop off the side, might just a little bit. Now I can start to bring in that really fun tangle. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, and then we'll go for it. Hope that sounds good to you. So I've got this really nice shape in here. I'm going to start by putting in my circle, and I'm going to do a nice size orb right in the center. Once I have that, I'm going to come from the bottom, use the side of the petal, and then I'm going to drop down and in. Once I've got that, I'm going to come down to the bottom and close it off, and then I'll go ahead and use the side of the petal and just bring it back in again. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to make a little orb. I'm going to try to make it about the same size. Coming in from the bottom here, use the side of the petal, coming in, and then I'll come over here and drop down and close it off, and then I'll come over here and close it off. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm going to use this side and just let it come down and touch, and let's go over here and do some more. So remember, I'm thinking about the size of that orb and trying to reproduce it. Here we are. Nice orb, coming up and touching, going a little past center and then closing it off. I'm going to come down, probably I would say the halfway point, close it off, and then once again bring this back in. Okay, this one I'm just going to let it float off the side, just like so. Isn't that pretty? I just think that's so lovely. So let's go up top and do another one. I'm going to use my little arc here. I'm going to go ahead and just start by doing my orb, trying to make the orb about the same size, coming up and out, make my flux, coming down and sweeping in, and then closing off so that I've got the petal there. I'm going to come over here. Now this one's not exactly centered, so you can play it however you want to play it here. I'm just going to try to make it as centered as I possibly can. I'm going to come up, over, and sweep back in, dropping down, close it off, and then coming over and closing it off. A little bit off center, but I think it'll be okay. Once again, coming in, make your orb, make that nice flux shape, close it off, and then once again coming in and closing it off. Really, really fun. Isn't that such a fun tangle? This one's slightly off, so I'm just going to come over here and make it however I can. And then I'll come over, close it off, bring this back in and down. Aren't those pretty? Just love the way those look. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start to pool our ink behind the orbs and get those to really, really pop. So I'm going to go ahead and do mine, you go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we'll do the other side. So you can see I've got those meta triangles right in there. I'm going to go ahead and just pull those in, just like so. Just dancing around in here. And coming in and getting that to really, really pop. I love the way these little petals look. I think they're so, so fun. Now once I've got those the way that I want them, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that cruffle detail that we had earlier. So I'm just going to do it on the left side. So I'm coming in, doing a little aura, and then I'll do another aura and drop down. I'll go to the next one. So I'm skipping the one that's underneath, and I'm going to just do the ones that are on top. So what this is going to look like is I'm going to come in and do a double aura. Coming in and do a double aura. Same thing over here. And same thing over here. I'm just having some fun with these. Isn't that so cool? I love the way those look. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to put in my auras with the ink, getting these really solidified here. And when we ink in the frame, those will really get solidified. But isn't that so fun? Just love the way that looks. So let's go ahead and do the other side, and if you need to pause me here, you can go ahead. So I'm going to turn the piece here, and I'm going to pick back up my pencil. You can see that I've got a dot here and a dot here. These are 3/4 of an inch on the way out. I'm going to do a nice arc, and then I'll do another aura behind them. What I love about this is that, there's so much repetition in this particular composition, but it has such a nice feel to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start once again by creating that petal that's coming up and out, and I would say that's probably about 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to come in right next to it, and I'm going to make an arc that's going to touch and come over. Same thing, arc and touch, and this one will fall right off the page. Same thing over here. and then I'll come over and do another one, and this one will probably fall right off. So you can see that they just look like petals of a flower here. And then once again, I'm going to create those arches up top. This is really just kind of a guide for myself. I love a good guide while I'm tangling, so this kind of helps me with boundaries. Once I've got it the way that I want it, I'm going to pick up my pen and I'm going to start to tangle. So I consider these kind of strings, if you will. I'm thinking about what I did on the other side. I want my orbs to be about the same. And so I'm going to come in, create my orb, and then I'm going to dance out, go a little bit past the middle and come back in, close it off, and close it off again, just like so. Okay, I'm going to do it again over here. Nice orb, come up from underneath the circle, and come right in. Close it off, and once again, coming right back in again. Such a fun way to do this tangle. Coming up and over, just a little bit past center, close it off, and close it off. This one I think I can get a half orb out of it, so I'm going to try. And then I'll come back and over and close it down. Same thing over here. I think I can get a little bit more. So this one's going to be a little different from the other side, but that's okay with me. And then I'll go to the ones above. So I'm always looking to create the tangle. I'm just using those guided shapes to help me to keep from going too far past where I want to be. That one was a little bit off, but that's okay. Now, once I've got my orbs in the way that I want them, I'm going to pool my ink behind the orbs just like I did the first time. So you go ahead and do yours, I'm going to do mine, but just remember with these particular pens, the lighter you go, the more the ink flows. So remember not to push too hard with the pen, and just have fun. Let yourself relax into what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You've got this. You can just see I'm pooling my ink and having some fun. All right, you do yours. So you see I've got mine pooled in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and do that detailing again, just like what we did with Cruffle. And I'm just going to do a double Cruffle like so. Okay, so you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. And then when we come back, we're going to start to bring our dragonflies into the piece. To create our dragonflies, what we're going to do is we're going to start with that Tangle Flux again. So just like we were doing before with Flux, we're going to use it as the body of our dragonfly. So what this is going to look like is we're going to have an elongated flux, and we'll put a circle on the top. And then we're going to have some wings that come off of the side that are going to be like seed-like shapes. And you'll notice that they're coming out right in that space that goes from in between the head and the body here. Once I have that, I'm also going to make a smaller shape right in here for the second set of wings. Now, as we work with this, we might add a little bit of these kind of angulated shapes inside of our dragonfly wings just to give it a little bit of interest. And some of you who may have done other dragonfly classes with me before know that I love to attach a little diamond down below the dragonfly itself. So it really gives it a nice feel. So we're going to start to bring this into our piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my piece here, and we're going to start up top. Now what this is going to look like is I'm going to come in and I'm actually going to start with a little diamond first. So I'm going to come into where my V shape is, and I'm going to make a little diamond that's just going to pop up, and I'm going to give it an aura. And you can see it's fairly small here because I want to leave a lot of space for my dragonfly. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to connect to the top of that diamond, and I'm going to bring in that elongated flux and let it drop in and touch the diamond. Once I have that, I'm going to put the head of my dragonfly up top. And I've got this space now in which I'm working. And I love when you have, a little bit of a confined space, because it really helps you to kind of know where and how to put things into a space. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to arch out, and I'm going to touch the edge here and bring this little seed-like shape in. And I'm going to do this in here too. So it's the elegance of boundaries in here. So I've got that in there, and then I'll come in and I'll do another one right in here. And don't worry if yours doesn't look the same as mine. Just put it in there the best way that you can. Remember, this is all about having fun. If we get too precious with it, it takes all the fun out of it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of the triangle in there. Just like so. And so there you can see I've got my dragonfly on the edge. Now if you need to pause me here, this is a great place to do it. Otherwise I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do the other side. So you're going to see me turn my tile, and I'm thinking about how large this diamond was on this side, and I'm going to bring it over to the other side. So all I'm doing is coming in and making a fairly small diamond. Once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the elongated flux, leaving room for the head on the edge. Here's where the head's going to go. And once again, bringing in that teardrop shape, letting it touch the edge. Same thing over here. And remember, no two dragonflies are alike here, so yours don't have to be exactly perfect. Can let them be as they are. And then I'm going to go ahead and make those little V-like shapes inside of the wing, just like so. So that when I turn it, you can see that my dragonflies are moving in opposite directions, and I love that movement of things going outward. So go ahead and finish up yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we'll talk about pooling our ink, and we're also going to work in the center of the piece. So I'm going to come into where the dragonfly is, and I'm going to close off the corners. So you're going to see me just come in and close off my edges, just like so. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to pool my ink. So you're going to see me start to puddle, and I'm working really, really slowly around the head of the dragonfly here. And I'm just getting in there. And this is really going to make that dragonfly just pop right off the page. . So some of you might know that I live very close to a beautiful pond here in the mountains, and we have all different types of dragonflies. We've got the big orange dragonflies and the little damselflies and all different kinds. But in the springtime and in the early summer, we get what we call an 8-spotted skimmer. And it's this beautiful pale blue dragonfly that has these beautiful spots on it. And I just am in love with this dragonfly. It's one of my favorites. If you want to look it up, check it out because it's so, so cool. I'm going to go over to the other side, pull my ink in. You can see that I'm doing this with little circles. The reason why I work in little circles is because I get less scratch from the background and I get a really nice even distribution of ink when I do that. So you can see that I'm just doing little circles and working my way through the piece. And I love seeing all of that nice dark ink because it gives it a really neat graphic feel. And by the way, if you have a bigger puddle pen and you want to work with that, you're more than welcome to do that. I find that my PN is just enough. So you can see, I'm going to turn this on its side here. Look at how dramatic this is, and this one feels just a little bit flat to me. Now, you may decide that you want to do this with color too, so instead of using the black, you could use color in here. I liked using the black because it was an ode back to what was going on inside of these tangles over here. So go ahead and finish pooling around your dragonfly, and then when we come back, we'll work on the center. I hope you're enjoying this. This is one of those really beautiful strings that just really comes to life, and it's really going to come to life as soon as we start shading it too. I've picked back up my number 2 pencil in here, and we're going to start to work inside of the center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some petals into the center here. So you're going to see me just start with a nice soft arch. And I'm going to connect and just go off to the side with it. Now you'll notice that I'm going to let it kind of fall off the piece here. See how it's just kind of falling off? And I'm just going to let it continue through over here just by adding those lines. I'll turn the piece just like so, and I'll create those arches again, letting it go off to the side and off to the side again, just like so. So we get this really beautiful flower-like piece in here. Now I'm going to pick back up my pen again, and I'm going to ink it in, just getting it the way that we want it here, right? Now once I've had a chance to bring those petals into place, you'll see I get these interesting triangles that we call interstices, and I'm going to pool my ink into the interstices. So once again, continuing with that idea of using the black as a really interesting graphic piece to the puzzle. Coming over to the side here, inking that in, getting it just the way that you like it, pooling in the ink, and I think that really makes the center pop. It gives it a little bit of character. Cleaning up my lines here a little bit. And then once I have that the way that I like it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come in and just add in a little bit of interest to the outside edge here. I'm going to go ahead and give these some dots. Now in those pieces that fall off, we're going to leave them alone, but in here, I'm going to bring the dots in. And that just gives that a little bit of interest. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to bring in the border just a little bit. So I'm going to bring in just a little bit of our frame here, and you can see that I've got my pen in my hand, and I'm just going to let that pen follow the frame that we had built early on in the piece here. You can see I'm just turning and letting it fall down the side of the piece. I'm going to go to the other side, do the same. Turning, turning, turning. And it just gives that a little bit of an enclosure that'll be really lovely when we work on the backgrounds later on. So go ahead and finish up yours, and then when we come back, it's time for color. If we were in the same room together, you know I would be passing out Dove chocolates right now, right? So grab your chocolates or something that gives you a little bit of sustenance because we're going into color, baby. All right, so I've got a few different colors in my hands here, and I'm just going to talk about them. So I have the grass green in my hand, which is PC 909. I have Dahlia Purple in my hand, which is PC 1009. And then I also have my my process red, which, oh my gosh, I cannot read that. I'll have to go and look and give you the number in a minute. And then finally PC 938, which is the white. We're going to work with the dark green first, so don't worry about the purples just yet. So I'm just going to start with those, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with the background of our tint here. So tint is this really fun tangle that we just learned, and I'm just working in the background pieces. So zooming in on this, I'm going to be working with the side of the pencil since we have so much to work with, and notice how sharpened up I am. And remember, each color is 3 different colors, right? It's light, it's medium, and it's dark. It's all about the amount of pressure that you're putting on that pencil. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to go very, very softly, and you can see that what I'm doing is I'm rubbing the side of the pencil into the piece. I'll do it again, just rubbing the side of the pencil into the area so you can see that I can fill it up a lot faster than if I was working on the point of the pencil, right? Now I am going to give this a little bit of a shadow. Once I've given it a little bit of shadow, all I'm doing is just pressing a little bit harder on that pencil. You can see there's the shadow. Now for those of you who've been with me for a long time, you know that I love to blend with my white. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a very soft blend by going right where that dark green is meeting the light green, and notice how that softens out the color and gives it a really soft feel. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. One more time, giving this a little bit of a shadow by pressing a little bit harder, and then I'll come in with a little bit of the white right where that line of demarcation is, where the darker color is meeting the lighter color. That's where I work with the pencil, and then I work a little bit back. And look at how soft that blend is. It's really quite lovely, and it's a nice way to work with your color pencils because you can continue to work back and forth and bring more drama into the piece. So it's really up to you how deep and dramatic those colors are. Okay, so I'm going to go through and do all of those pieces, and then I'll go over to the other side and do the same. You go ahead and do yours. I'm already loving the way that this is starting to look. Just by using that little pop of color, it already changes it so dramatically. Let's pick up our purples here. I've got my Dahlia purple, which is PC1009, and then you can see my process red. It's gotten a little bit worn out here. So let's see here. It's PC994 for the process red. Now remember, if you don't have the same colors as me, you can always substitute. Like you could use magenta instead of process red, or use a wine colored red, and that would look really, really pretty. So remember, you don't have to use the exact same colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into where we have tint here, and I'm going to start with that lighter color first. Remember, the Dahlia purple is darker and the process red is a little bit lighter. So I'm going to come in with the process red, and I'm going to go fairly lightly with this, and you'll notice that I'm going to leave a little edge of white right up at the top. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and come in with that Dahlia purple and go nice and lightly with the Dahlia purple. And you can see that the Dahlia purple is a very dramatic color. It's got a lot of richness to it. Once I've got that, I'm going to come back in right over that line of demarcation. See where the Dahlia purple is meeting the process red here? I'm just going to do little circles with that process red right over where the Dahlia purple is meeting it, just to get a little bit of that richness. And then I'll pick up my white. Now you want to make sure there's no green on your white pencil. So I'm just kind of rubbing off the top of that pencil, and then I'm going to do little circles and kind of blur it in to each other. And you get this beautiful mix of these two colors, and it looks almost like a watercolor. Isn't that so pretty? These two play so well together. So I'm going to do that all the way throughout wherever I've got those orid parts of the tint tangle. Say that 10 times fast. Tint tangle. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. You go ahead and do yours. So one of the things that I love about working with color is that it's a great equalizer. Now I recognized when I started working with this piece that these petals were smaller than these petals, but once I started working with the color it really didn't matter, and so that's why I love working with color. So we're going to hold on to the greens and the purples, but just put them off to the side. We'll come back to them in a little bit. I wanted to start to work with the background in this piece, and so we're going to introduce two new colors. We're going to work with Goldenrod, which is PC1034, and it's kind of like a honey Dijon color. It's kind of got that mustardy kind of look to it. And then I also have in my hand the orange, which is PC918. These work really beautifully together. Now if you don't have these colors, just pick up something that's similar, something that's kind of got a mustard color and something that's got an orangish tone to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in on our orb, and then I'm also going to focus in on the background. So let's go ahead and zoom in. And you'll also want to have your graphite pencil nearby and a tortillon. Now if you don't have a tortillon, just go into the bathroom and grab a little bit of a Q-tip. That will work as a great blender. So I'm going to start by building this up with a little bit of that honey mustard color. This is that goldenrod. And I'm going to use the side of the pencil. So notice the way I'm holding it. I'm really far back, and I'm just rubbing the side of the pencil into the paper here, doing little circular motions and leaving a little bit of a highlight in that upper left-hand corner. So you'll see there's no color going into that corner. I'm going to come in and I'm going to choke up on that pencil a little bit, and I'm going to start to press a little bit harder in here with that same color. This is the goldenrod. Giving this a really soft dusting with just a little bit more pressure. Really going for a little bit of drama here. So you can see when I zoom in on this, there's a little bit of a line of demarcation there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a little bit of that orange and I'm going to start to bring some of that orange in there. So I'm switching out into the orange, and you can see here's the dark brown and here's the light brown. I'm going to start to bring in just a little bit of that orange. I'm barely touching the page with my pencil here. Giving us a little bit of drama. You can see that I'm kind of falling back a little bit into some of that darker brown. I'm going to pick back up a little bit of that goldenrod, and I'm going to blur out that line of demarcation in here. Now once I have that, I'm going to pick up a little bit of that graphite pencil, and this is where things get interesting. So I'm going to pick up that graphite pencil and I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow in here. You're going to see that I'm going to make little circles all the way down. Coming in here, I'm going fairly lightly with that graphite pencil, and then I'm going to start to give it a little bit more pressure just along the edge here. So what I'm trying to do is get a very earthy tone out of this. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my tortillon, this is the blending stump, and I'm going to start to do little circular motions to get that really soft kind of foggy feel. Once I've got that the way I want it, I'm going to pick back up that goldenrod again and I'm going to set it. So what this is doing is it's making it so that that graphite can't move, but it's also bringing a nice tint, almost like a sepia tone, over the top of that graphite. And you're going to see me start to move forward into the orange here, and then I'll even move even further forward over the top of where that last part of the goldenrod was. And what I love about this is that it just gives it such a neat earthy tone, so that when I zoom out, look at how pretty that is. Isn't that pretty? I love getting these neat earthy tones. Now, if you're looking for a little bit of electricity in your gemstone here, you can pick up a little bit of that sunburst yellow, which is PC 917, and if you wanted to, you could run a little bit of that sunburst yellow right over the lightest part of where the goldenrod and the orange are meeting each other, just to give it a little bit of electricity. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. I'm going to go over to the other side and do it there, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about this background. So I'm going to take a little bit of that goldenrod and I'm going to start to sweep it into the background. This is that Dijon color again. You can see that I'm working with the pencil on the side, and this is really going to bring in a nice coherent feeling in the background. I'm just dusting this in and letting it dive down in between that tangle there, and letting it kind of move through into the background to soften it up. Now once I've got that all the way through in the background, I'm going to add a shadow into the piece here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by bringing a little bit of pressure right along this kind of arc that we have here. And I'll start to bring this back a little bit towards those petals. You can see that I'm using a medium pressure here. And this is going to give this a little bit of dimension. Once I have that, I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and pick it up and make sure there's no other colors on it, because we don't want it to blend in or bleed into the colors that we have. And you can see that what I'm doing is I'm starting to blur out that color a little bit, giving it a little bit of softness as I work my way through. Now once I've got that the way that I want it, I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that sunburst yellow, and I'm going to let it kind of dive into some of these spaces, giving this almost a watercolor feel in that background. And I feel like it gives it a really nice electricity as well. And if you want to, you can come back in and blur that out as well. And you can let this be as dramatic as you want it to be or as soft as you want it to be. So go ahead and play with that background. I'm going to do the other side in here. You go ahead and do yours. Isn't that so electric? Love that. So I'm picking back up that green that I used out here, and I'm going to start to go inside of the shape that we have in here. So I'm going to zoom in on this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to dust into where I have those flux-like shapes. Now you'll notice that I'm not doing this in the aura around the shape. I'm actually just staying within those three flux-like shapes that we have here. And then I'll come back down towards the bottom and move about halfway up and give this a little bit of pressure. And I'm going to bring a little bit of drama right in towards that point. You'll notice that I've left a little lightness up top. Might give that a little bit more color in here. And then I'll pick up that white again and make sure that there's no other colors on it and just give it a little bit of a blur. So I'm going to do that on all four sides here. So I'll go over here and then over here and over here. Lightness stays towards the center, darkness stays towards the points. Have fun with that. I'm going to introduce two new colors into the piece here. I've got my light aqua, which is PC992, and I also have in my hand peacock blue, which is one of my favorite colors in the Prisma set. This is PC1027. It's such a moody color. I really, really love it. So go ahead and grab a light blue and a dark blue if you don't have the same colors as what I have here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by coming into where I have the dragonfly here, and I'm going to zoom in on this. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the light aqua first. This is the lighter color, and I'm going to do a soft dusting down the right hand side of the dragonfly here, and you'll notice that I'm leaving a little bit of a light source off on the left hand side. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dust in the wings as well with that same color, and I'm going with a really, really light pressure, really keeping it soft. You'll notice that I'm not doing anything in the head of the dragonfly. We're going to save that for a little bit of graphite later. Once I've got that in there the way I want it, I'm going to come back in and create a shadow with that darker peacock blue. Now, if you don't have the peacock blue, you could probably use Copenhagen blue or True blue. Those are both really, really nice substitutes for this blue if you don't have it. I do have to say, though, I am kind of having a love affair with this blue right now. All right, so I've got these really nice shadows that I'm moving into the wing here. And then once I have that, I'm going to pick back up a little bit of that light aqua, and I'm going to use the light aqua to blur the edge. I'll come in and I'll blur the edge in here. Over to the other wings. And then once again, I'm going to pick up that white pencil, cleaning off the edges, no green in there. and I'm going to blur in those wings. So you go ahead and work with yours. I'm going to work with mine. You can see I'm bringing it a little bit into the body, but I'm mostly bringing it into the wings to give this a nice soft feel. Getting that damselfly kind of feel in this particular dragonfly. Super fun. Go ahead, play, and I'm going to do the other side too. Whenever I start to introduce a new color, I always like to see it somewhere else in the piece. This is something that I call carrying color, and it just helps your eye to bounce around the actual piece here. So I'm going to take that same blue and I'm going to start to bring it to the inside of tint. So let's go ahead and turn this here, and we're going to zoom in. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to come in with the light aqua first, and I'll just show it on this one right here, leaving a little bit of a light source right in that upper left-hand corner. And then I'll come in with a little bit of that darker blue. This is that peacock blue. Just to give it a little bit of a blend. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that light aqua again and just kind of blur it out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of graphite and just bring a little bit of graphite right on the edge here. I'm going to take a little bit of that light aqua and I'm going to set the graphite so that it really gives it a nice intensity. And that's the way that I'm going to play with that here, just giving it a nice moodiness inside of that blue. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in all of my orbs that I have inside of tint. You go ahead and do it in yours. So we're going to do some work with our graphite pencil here, and I'm just going to start by working inside of the head of the dragonfly. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to do a soft dusting of graphite inside the dragonfly head, and I'm going to use my tortillon to blend it. And you'll notice that I'm leaving a little bit of a light source here. And remember, you can always use your Q-tip to blend here. And then I'm also going to do a little bit of pressure on that to get a little bit of a shadow. So you go ahead and do that on the other dragonfly as well. Let's bring a little bit of that graphite into the center here around the orb that's in the center. You can see that I'm adding in just a little bit of graphite right along the edge of where that orb is, and then I'll take a little bit of the tortillon and give it a little bit of a blur out. So we're just giving a little shadow in here, and I just love the dramatic effect that that gives, and I want it to feel very organic, so no hard lines with the white in here. You want to keep it as soft as you possibly can. I will come back in and add a little bit of heaviness around the orb, just like so that you can see that it's going to get a bit of a glow on it, and then I will come in and give it some interest, which I think is really, really cool. Gives it a really neat feel. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to start to add a little bit of color into the center. I'm really loving this. I hope you're enjoying it too. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that process red that we were working with earlier. This is that kind of magenta pinkish color. And I'm going to start by just adding a dusting of it into the center here. You'll notice that I'm being very careful not to let my hand touch where the graphite is. As a left-handed person, I end up wearing it most of the time. I could go in and set it with a little bit of white, but I'm not going to do that today. So I've got a little bit of that magenta-ish color in there. This is process red that I'm working with. This is that really, really fun color. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of the dahlia purple, and I'm going to give a little shadow right in here, giving that a little bit of drama. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of that graphite pencil and give a little bit of drama to the outside edge. I'll come back in with a little bit of that process red and break up that line of demarcation in here. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of my white. Remember, you don't want to have any colors on that white so that it doesn't bring anything in that you weren't expecting. And I'm going to start from the lightest point and do little circles and start to blur backwards. And you're going to see me kind of pull that graphite into where that purple is. It's so, so cool. I love the drama of it. And then finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of that yellow and just give it a little bit of a pop right in here. Now you could use a little bit of the goldenrod, but I happen to have the sunburst yellow in my hand. This is the PC 917, and look at the drama that brought in here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that graphite and redefine the edge just a little bit. I want to keep as much of that drama in there as I can. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. Isn't that so pretty in the center? So I'm going to take a little bit more of that process red and dip it into these little diamonds that we have in here. You'll notice I'm going to leave a little bit of a light source up top. And I'm doing the same thing down below in here. I'll pick up a little bit of that dahlia purple and give it a little pop right at the bottom. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that white and just kind of blend those two into each other there. And then if you want to, you can pick up a little bit of that yellow and just give a little pop right at the top of the diamond there. Just giving that a little bit of interest in the center. Go ahead, have fun, play. I'm going to add a little bit of graphite shading into this here. You're going to see me come into the bottom and add just a little dusting of graphite on either side of this arc that we have here, and then bring a little bit of that blender into it just to give it a little bit of drama. I'll go ahead and I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to give it a little bit of a heavier press and just give that a little bit of drama there as well. So go ahead and do the same thing on the opposite side. And then the final place that I'm going to do a little bit of graphite is going to be inside of the V's in here. I'll do it on both sides. And then on the arcs in here. And then a little bit in our auras on the outside. So you can see that I'm just dusting those in with a little bit of graphite, and then I'll come back in and I'll blur those things out with my tortillon. The same thing over here, coming in over here. And you can see that that just gives it a little bit more of a finished edge that wouldn't have been there before, would have felt a little bit flat. So just by giving it a little bit of graphite, it really gives this whole thing a little bit of a finished look. Now when we come back, I'm going to add in just a few white highlights into this piece. Let's bring some white gel pen into this. So I'm going to pick up my white gel pen and I'm just going to add in a little bit of a highlight into the center here. It's just an arc with a little bit of a squared off edge, and then I'll do another square right above it just to give it some interest there. The other place that I'm going to add a little bit of white is into these orbs that we have in here. So you're going to see me come in and just add a little bit of those nice little arcs into the orbs that we have. And I just feel like it makes them look really nice and juicy and shiny. The other place that I'm going to add a little bit is right in here where we've got this really nice gemstone. You can see that that really gives it a lot of interest. So I'm going to do that same technique that I did over here over on the other side as well. And then finally I'm going to add in some orbs around my dragonfly in here, just to kind of make it look like he is maybe moving through some beautiful starlit night. And I just love that look of it, almost like he's exploring some beautiful evening. So go ahead and finish up yours. I'm going to finish up mine. So I put these two together. This was my original piece, and this is the piece that we did in the video. Just wanted to show you that I added a little bit of graphite into this one, and it made it a really dramatic kind of feel. And I didn't do that on this one. I kept it kind of light and airy, so you can kind of decide what you would like to do with your piece. Now I did add my chop in here. That's my initial that just says that I've completed the piece and I'm feeling kind of done with it. And so, whenever you add your chop to a piece, I want you to pause and offer gratitude for the time that you took to create. This is really you time. This is the time that you take to feed your own spirit and do something that just makes you feel good. If you enjoyed the class, please give it a thumbs up or leave a nice review in the comment section. Even best, you can hit the subscribe button. I'd love it if you shared this with a friend. Doing Zentangle with a friend is such a wonderful activity that you can do, and I find that it just brings people closer together when they Zentangle together. So I hope you'll give that a try as well. I'd love to see your creations if you wanted to share with us over on Facebook on our Tangled Yogi Art Community page. We would love to see your creations. All my students share their work there, and it's a very supportive community. I think you'll really enjoy it. So that's it for me. I'm Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi. I look forward to tangling with you again soon. Bye for now.